Hey, this is Lorena, and I wanted to do a really quick video for you long armors, and also I think this would be great for you top makers. Yeah, top makers. Yes. A client came to me and she went ahead and sewed her back fabric and put a vertical seam, and she wanted me to make sure that her quilt top was centered to that vertical seam that was on her back fabric. Yeah. It is a little bit more complicated because a lot of clients do horizontal seams, and I know there's some long arm companies that they only allow certain quilt only with horizontal seams. I kind of really don't care, but usually a lot of quilt makers don't really care if the quilt top is centered to that vertical seam. But this client was this client did care, and so I wanted to go ahead and give her the desires of her heart. A lot of clients really don't care, so they allowed me to move the quilt top fabric all the way over. A lot of times the clients bring me fabrics that don't have any seams. But this client wanted me to make sure that her vertical seam in the back of her fabric was in line and totally centered quilt top on the top. So I thought this would be a great video on showing you on how I handle this kind of situation. It is not that hard. It just kind of, you have to measure certain things. And I thought for you long arm quilters, for you who haven't quilted before, and also for you quilt top makers, what you can expect from some long armers. But this is how I handle this kind of situation. I thought it would be a great video for you guys to see. Now let me just say, that day I was frumpy. I had been working all day. I had been in that room pretty much from I think 10 till I think 10 at night, trying to get some jobs completely done. And I think that day I finished 4 quilts. And so I've been busy, and that's one of the reasons why I'm having some issues. I'm making videos, but I'm having issues editing them. I wish I had an editor. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. But anyway, I just thought this would be a great video for you guys to see on how I handle this kind of situation. So I look a little bit frumpy, but that's the reality of the matter. And I just thought you would like this video. And yeah, I hope you just continue watching. I'll see you in a minute, alright? Bye! Here is the center seam on the back fabric, and here is the center seam on my top fabric. So the great thing about it, her quilt top has a natural center seam at the top. Quilt doesn't have a natural center seam like this quilt does. What I recommend is you fold your quilt in half and get a water soluble marker like this one. These are one of my favorite. This is a Clover water soluble marker, and I would mark the center of your seam all the way down. Now you don't necessarily have to. The good thing about this quilt is it has a natural center seam. So what I did is I folded the quilt in half, and I know that this quilt, this end is 35 inches, and then from this end to this end it's 35 inches. So I know that this seam is the center of the quilt top. So I went ahead and I measured it, and I know that this seam right here where she did the piecing, it's the center. So I don't have to necessarily mark it. That's the great part of this. And then another thing I did, and I'm going to move the quilt over here. The back fabric is pretty much the same size. What I did is from here, the edge of the seam to the edge of this selvage right here, it's 9 inches. From here to here. From here to here, it's 9 inches, okay? And then I also did that on the opposite end. The edge of this top fabric and the edge of the selvage right here, and I make sure that it's 9 inches. And so what I did is I measured this area so I know how far on both sides. And then as I roll the quilt, I make sure that the edge of this fabric is always 9 inches, okay? Here is the center seam of my quilt top, right? And then I'm going to make sure, because this is white, beige, back fabric, and I'm going to make sure that there's no lint or thread or anything. And so I'm going to roll everything up and make sure also that there's no pleats on the back fabric, because that's just the worst thing that can happen. So my first thing that I check is, here's my center seam, and then here's my center seam to my back fabric right here. And I make sure that I try to line it up as much. I use my top finger here, rub it, and then I make sure that I rub it down. And this way I make sure that everything is kind of nice and centered. That's one of the things that I do to make sure that the seam, so if I would have drawn a line, I would try to get that drawn line to stay right on the center seam. As the quilt is being rolled, it kind of shifts and angles in different directions. This way I know that this seam is completely on that other seam. Another thing I do to make sure, remember I had distance of 9 inches. I recheck my spacing on both sides. And here, from this edge to this edge is 9 inches. So I know that the spacing throughout the whole quilt, and if I go here, I do a couple checks, and I know that this is pretty much straight and it's 9 inches away, so I know this side is checked. And then I go ahead and I do that on the opposite end. Here I am at the opposite end, and I'm going to go ahead and roll my batting so it's out of my way, and I'm going to check from the 9 to here. And the way I did this one is it had a lot of salvage, so from the edge of the salvage it's 9, and then I go ahead and I check the whole thing. Like here I need to move some of the fabric over a little bit. So okay guys, I hope you really do like this video. I know it's a little bit different because it's a long arm video. I'm hoping soon that I'm going to start getting on the long arm and do some custom quilting. Custom quilting, my favorite part. Let me ask you guys a question. I do embroidery work, and I do a lot of work for clients. I wanted to know if you guys would be interested in seeing me like embroider some towels, on how I embroider them, how I embroider hats and different stuff like that, and I could incorporate some of those videos into my channel. And I just thought, you know, you guys would like to maybe learn, because when I started no one taught me. I had to learn all by myself and fail all by myself and fail a lot. And when I failed a lot, I learned a whole lot. So sometimes failure is not a problem, because when you fail, there's this opportunity of really learning and growing. But I hope you like this video. This is a real-time video. I look all frumpy. And I thank you for watching, and I really appreciate it. I am going to announce the giveaway hopefully this coming Monday, next Monday. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. I wanted to go ahead and share with you kind of like, not a dilemma, but you know, something different. What happened is one of the clients went ahead and sewed her quilt back fabric, and she put a center seam, a horizontal seam. Horizontal is this way, a vertical. So I hope this helps. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in a little bit. Hopefully this video comes out, because I don't know if I look like crap or not. Alright, bye. Bye.